Today I am asking a question that was asked yesterday on the vlog. And actually I'm kind of surprised it hasn't come up earlier, but we're talking about it today. And that is our kids, particularly our autistic kids, and screen time. If you're new here and you just stumbled upon this particular video and you've never watched another one of our videos, my name is Cami. I am autistic, my husband's autistic, and at least 4 of our 5 kids are also autistic. We have a YouTube channel where we talk a lot about autism. So screen time. A curious person commented the other day, respectfully, and wanted to know why our kids get so much screen time. And my answer was probably a little bit exasperated, and that is because I am probably a little bit perpetually exasperated right now because, hopefully you can't hear that, my washer is below me and it's going to be going off and on. But anyways, I am perpetually exasperated right now because we have basically been locked inside for going on 5 months now, and it's the pandemic. Last year we did basically a screen-free summer. We spent our summer at the zoo, the park, the lake, the library. Every day we would get up in the morning and we would leave the house and we would go out on adventures. We would go to different parks. We would go out into the world. It was amazing. We had picnics. We did things. You get the idea, I'm sure. But this year it's different. Even the lakes are closed now where we live because they don't want people out crowded at the beach, which, I mean, when we would go to the lakes, we would be the only people there. But they're actually ticketing people for that now. Even if you're the only ones there, you can get a ticket. So that's not happening this year. We are completely basically trapped at home. The parks are closed, the lakes are closed, the pools are closed. Last year we had a season pass at our favorite water park, and we went there several times a week to the water slides and to play. This year that's not happening. We have 5 little pools that our kids can't swim in because they're literally like 5 inches deep, and a sprinkler. And I mean, that's fun. We are definitely trying to make the best of this, but I have 5 kids who have been home for 4 months and they get along pretty well, but they're still siblings, and I'm still having breakup fights roughly 1,000 times a day. So they are definitely getting more screen time than they've ever gotten in their entire lives. And that is definitely not ideal. I don't love it. But I also know that everyone is pretty much doing the best that they can, and I'm okay with that. This is not forever. And right now that the school part of our year is over, where we all buckled down and we did our best to do school each day, I'm trying to let them have the best summer that they can have. And for the boys, that means playing Sonic. For Maggie, that means playing Toca Boca. For Sadie, that means sitting on her Kindle and reading about dinosaurs and Petrovsky stones. She was reading to me out loud about Petrovsky stones and elephants and science. Uh-oh, Maggie's gonna need me very soon. Tessie doesn't really have any screen time other than watching My Little Ponies and Shimmer and Shine on TV. Tessie's our 4-year-old. Tessie hardly ever sits for more than like 10 minutes at a time before she's running again and building things and knocking things down and destroying things and finding tools. She actually found an Allen wrench somewhere and disassembled our dining room chairs that I had assembled. She also found a screwdriver, a toy screwdriver, and disassembled her own high chair that my dad had to put back together. He also put back together our dining room chairs with some sort of locking glue. Anyways, so that's like how Tessie's day is. She doesn't get really any screen time. She doesn't do the whole Kindle thing. But yeah, the other kids do get screen time that is definitely in excess of anything they've gotten at any other points in their life. And that is right now. Outside of right now, they'd probably be lucky to get like half an hour. However, there was a second half to that question that did kind of bother me a little. Bear with me. I read that autistic kids should have very limited screen time so that they are not relating to inanimate objects and cartoon illustrated characters. It is better that they interact with actual humans. What is their opinion? Okay, that shouldn't bother me because you're asking me, and that's great that you're asking. Thank you for asking. Well, number one, our kids get so much human interaction. I've even had therapists say that during this whole pandemic thing, they aren't that worried about our kids because they get so much human interaction. It's almost painful. Like, I mean, how far can we really get away from each other? Because confined space all the time. It's a lot. It is a lot. But, literally, when I'm in here, people come and drag chairs up and look through the window at me from outside. You can hear them. They're doing it right now. This is like the only room that I have privacy in, and someone's about to look through the window at me because they figured out where I am. I feel like there's this big myth that because autistic people don't necessarily relate to people in the same way that neurotypical people relate, that we don't relate to people at all. That because we don't make eye contact and look at you, or necessarily want to be touched all the time, or because we're not huggy, that we don't relate to people. And I actually went away, edited this whole video, and now I feel like I need to cut in right here because I went off on a total tangent and I never got to my actual point of what I needed to say. So I'm gonna jump back in here with the actual point of the entire video. Well, maybe not the point of the whole video, but at least the point of this one particular section. I think that there are a lot of assumptions about autistic people loaded in this question, and maybe they're true for some people because, I mean, it's true. When you know one autistic person, you know one autistic person. In my experience with the autistic people that I know, and particularly autistic people in my family, I have yet to meet a person who didn't want connection in my life. Every time I turn around, someone wants my attention, and I work my hardest in my day-to-day life to make sure that that attention is enough to go around and that I am giving enough of that one-on-one attention. In my personal experience with meeting other autistic people and kids, that's really not limited to my family. Very often, autistic people are looking for connections just like neurotypical people, maybe just not in the same way that neurotypical people expect. And I guess that's probably what bothered me about this sentence, because yes, oftentimes we are interested in cartoons or characters. I probably get lost in a good book on a daily basis, and I'm very interested in the characters, but that doesn't make me any less interested in my day-to-day life. That makes my life richer, not poorer. And I absolutely love that my children are interested in things passionately, and I don't think that detracts from their relationships in the least. I think that we always have this tendency to judge the latest technology, and then when the next thing comes out, we're on to judging that. And I think that, well, we need to be careful. I think it's a mistake in this case to just throw the baby out with the bathwater, because from what I've seen, I haven't seen a detriment in making connections because of screen time at all. I've seen my kids excitedly talking and sharing and then playing pretend, whether it's with action figures or making up games about the characters that they have played with on screens. To me, that's pretty cool. So back to that video I made a couple hours ago. That's not true. Or maybe because we don't necessarily have a ton of friends. And I'll admit, I struggle with making friends. I've struggled with making friends my whole entire life. I have social anxiety. I can't speak to this from a child's experience because when I was a child, there weren't screens to help me. But as an adult, screens are really helpful in terms of social interaction. They help me interact with people more than I would be able to otherwise. I dread phone calls. I dread talking to people with my voice. I know that it becomes very high and artificial over the phone, and being able to message and text when I have to communicate with people is extremely helpful to me. As an adult now, I have far more social interaction than I would have because of screens than I would anyways. I feel like we demonize screens, and yeah, I think there is some danger in autistic kids getting wrapped up in screens, and I think that same danger exists for neurotypical kids. I mean, I saw my friends getting so wrapped up in video games. I mean, growing up, there were plenty of boys that were totally wrapped up in video games that were neurotypical. And I guess with the way autistic brains are wired, there is more of a danger, they say. But I don't think we can discount how much of an aid screens are either. And I definitely appreciate the calming nature of screens in this time that is so anxiety producing for kids, especially because I know that my kids, even Maggie, who doesn't have much speech, are very aware in how different the world is right now. James, who's 5, but James can hardly stop talking about how different the world is right now. Even though I spend every day trying to shield him from it, he is super aware of it. I feel like this is a little scrambled, but while I think screens should be treated with caution, I think we shouldn't totally discount them in the advantages that they can offer our children who are not neurotypical, both in terms of socializing. We've had a kid who's used it in interacting with other autistic children online in a social group during this epidemic, using it to read, just using it to escape right now from, in this house, they've definitely used it to be able to blow off steam and get away from the constant social interaction that goes on in our house. And honestly, what I've seen with our kids who basically all also have ADHD is that really they're never sitting down with them for too long. You see them with them a lot because you see little glimpses of our day, usually less than 10 minutes. And so yeah, a lot of times they'll have them in their hands for a few minutes, especially our boys, but they can't sit still for very long. So usually they're putting them down, running outside, going, playing in the water, playing in the sprinklers, then picking them up for a few minutes and putting them down again. And oh my goodness, I'm plugging them in and unplugging them probably 50 times a day because they want them and then they're done, and then they want them and then they're done. Anyways, so that answers my question. I think it's a fine line. I think talking about it, we should definitely also talk about it as adults. Autistics and screen time. It's hugely beneficial, I think, in so many different ways. It gives us so many ways to communicate. And oh, I can't leave that out. We're talking both about getting both Tessie and Maggie iPads, trying them out. Maggie got to try out a iPad at her very first speech, at her new speech evaluation, and she got to use a language app, and she's hardly talked about anything else since. She keeps talking about speech and going to speech. She loved it so much, and if that happens, both of our girls will probably have iPads with little straps glued to them after that with a language app so that they can communicate with that assistive technology, which would be absolutely amazing. I may be saving up my pennies soon, depending on whether or not insurance will cover it. So fingers crossed that insurance covers that. Because yeah, although Tessie just lost her speech and her OT because we wouldn't do ABA, which I was told would not happen, but it did happen. I'll probably make another video about that, but we are sad. If I wouldn't put her back in ABA, she was going to lose them both, and I wouldn't. Anyways, that is it for today. If you like this video, we'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up, and if you're interested in all things autism, we would love it if you'd hit subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.